What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for June 7th, 2024. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. We're officially 1 week out from Clash of the Castle in Glasgow, Scotland. It'll be the third consecutive PLE where I will not be doing a SmackDown audio review earlier on in the day, just due to the fact that these shows, this one, Backlash, King and Queen of the Ring, all airing earlier on in the day on Saturday, so it doesn't really give me enough time to record these reviews. Usually I record them at the time those shows are airing on Saturday afternoons. So I feel bad not doing another SmackDown audio review on the day of a pay-per-view, but that's just the case with these international shows. Scotland, France, Saudi Arabia. Thankfully, I mean, it's not international, but Money in the Bank in Canada, I think Toronto specifically, should be a great show. That's going to be coming up in a month. So we've had a lot of pay-per-views 3 weeks apart. Backlash, I think, was 3 weeks after Mania. Then we had King and Queen of the Ring 3 weeks after Backlash. And then we have Clash of the Castle 3 weeks after... I mean, Backlash might have been a month, actually. But between Backlash, King and Queen of the Ring, this show coming up next week, and Money in the Bank, all 3 weeks apart. That's just too much. All very good shows so far, but that's just too much. So hopefully they can go back to slowing it down after Money in the Bank, going into SummerSlam. And then I can go back to doing pay-per-view reviews, or rather SmackDown audio reviews on the days of pay-per-views. So no SmackDown audio review next week, which is a shame because I thought the SmackDowns before the Backlash show in France, and then even the SmackDown show before King and Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia last week, 2 taped shows, I assume next week's show will also be taped, obviously, were 2 quality shows due to the crowds, specifically the France one. I'm curious how the crowd is for Scotland coming up for SmackDown next week. And they did announce a few matches for that show, segments and whatnot. I thought this was a fine addition to SmackDown on Friday night, doing a nice job of setting the stage for said show, for Clash of the Castle in Scotland. They announced the new match, actually 2 new matches. An undisputed WWE Championship match, as you would expect, between Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles, with a stipulation, and a triple threat WWE Women's Tag Team title match that was teased on Monday's Raw. So let's get into it here. They open up the show with the Bloodline officially anointing Tonga Loa. I think it's Tonga, by the way, because his New Japan name was Tonga Loa. Tanga. I know this is a very slight, small difference, but it's worth noting because it gets me confused in my reviews. But I think his name is officially Tonga Loa in WWE to go along with Tama Tonga, whose last name is Tonga, if that makes sense. Anyway, so they officially anointed Tonga Loa as the newest member of the Bloodline. It was pretty much official since Backlash a month ago, but they wanted to make it official here in this segment. But we also found out from Paul Heyman, who's acting scared and apprehensive, which he's just so great in this role. The Bloodline stuff has kept my interest in the absence of Roman Reigns. I think they've done a good job of progressing the story, teasing tension there, largely because of Paul Heyman, though. Because Solo Sikoa isn't really a natural talker. He's done the best character work of his entire main roster run so far, simply by doing more than what he was doing before. So that's been nice to see. I think Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga are great in their roles as like the heavies for the group. And then Paul Heyman, that was really the MVP per usual, carrying the mic work and storyline development, acting apprehensive, as I mentioned. I think he's played his role perfectly well. So like he said in the segment, though, what I was going to mention a moment ago, was that not only is Tonga Loa the newest member of the Bloodline, but we also found out Tama Tonga is the new right-hand man of the Bloodline, a role previously occupied by one Jey Uso. So I don't know if they did that on purpose to kind of plant the seed that, hey, we're coming after Jey Uso at some point. Jey Uso will not be at Clash of the Castle, but he could be at he probably will be in Money in the Bank, I would have to imagine. Maybe they cost him the briefcase there, or, obviously Jey Uso's involvement in this storyline is inevitable. It's more a matter of when than if. But I could see them planting the seeds for that specifically, so we do get Tama Tonga versus Jey Uso at some point down the road. Probably in the not-too-distant future, if I had to take a guess. So I thought this segment was fine. Kevin Owens comes on out. This man just cannot get enough of the fucking Bloodline. Between 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and now 2024, 4 fucking years, this man has been feuding with the Bloodline. He just can't get enough. He just doesn't know when to stop. Like I said last week, he did beat the Bloodline in that tag team match at Night of Champions last year in Saudi Arabia. Him and Sami Zayn successfully defending the WWE Undisputed Tag Team titles against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. But beyond that, he has lost to the Bloodline in pretty much every single fucking turn. Also beating the Usos, I should mention, at WrestleMania. But beyond that, he lost to the Bloodline at Backlash last year, losing to Roman Reigns on 4 different occasions with the championship on the line at TLC 2020, on SmackDown in 2020, Royal Rumble 2021, Royal Rumble 2023. The man just can't get enough. Also losing to Solo Sikoa on a number of occasions as well. So he needed backup. He got back up here in the Street Profits, setting the stage for the night's main event, Owens and the Bloodline, or Owens against the Bloodline, with the Street Profits as his partner. For those wondering, Bobby Lashley, I believe, is still out injured. He had to pull out of the King of the Ring tournament last month due to the fact that he had a last-minute injury. They were advertising Bobby versus, was it Tama Tonga? In the first round up until like the day before, and then they replaced him with Angelo Dawkins. And we haven't seen him since. We haven't heard anything about his condition since, so hopefully he's okay. I didn't think it was a major issue. They had said in the announcement that he was injured while training. Obviously, they didn't blame the injury on the Bloodline or whatever. I guess they could have. They didn't. They said it was an injury while training. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know how serious the injury is. We don't even know what the injury is. So hopefully he's not out for too much longer. But at least they're keeping the Profits busy in his absence by aligning with Owens against the Bloodline. So I thought that was a solid segment. We had Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill taking on Candice, LeRae, and Indi Hartwell in tag team action in a rematch from the King and Queen of the Ring pre-show. Now, this was supposed to be Jade and Indi one-on-one. Indi kind of got in the face of Bianca and Jade backstage last week, blaming them for injuring Candice at the pay-per-view. And then we had the match made between Jade and Indi for this show. And then in a WWE.com exclusive, Candice and Indi confronted Nick Aldis before the show, complaining about the match. Nick Aldis had it changed, not to the fact not happening, but rather to Candice and Indi teaming up against Bianca and Jade again, this time without the WWE Women's Tag titles on the line. So it was a decent match, really not much to it, but it was fine for what it was. This was more about setting up the post-match angle, because during the match, we saw Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark come out to ringside, despite being Raw superstars, but I guess, what does that matter in 2024? But they come out to the ring, and they attempt to attack the champions, Bianca and Jade. And they lay out Bianca and Jade, but then Zoe and Shayna get in the faces of Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, which made more sense than what we got on Raw. On Raw this week, the 4 women aligned against the champions. Now, I know you can make the argument, Jade and Bianca, they're so strong, so dominant, it takes 4 men to take these 2 women down. But at the same time, it was Isla Dawn and Alba Fire that cost Shayna and Zoe their opportunity at the championships. They contended for the championships on Monday, but their involvement caused the match to end in a DQ. Now, granted, Bianca had just hit Zoe, I believe, with the KOD. She was probably losing anyway, so really it should be Shayna and Zoe to thank. They have Alba Fire and Isla Dawn to thank. But, at least they went at it here. They will be opponents at the pay-per-view. And that's what this was meant to set up. Jade and Bianca laying at Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. We found out a little bit later on in the show from Nick Aldis, it will be a triple threat tag team title match at the pay-per-view. Jade and Bianca defending against Isla Dawn and Alba Fire in their native Scotland, which is cool. And then also Zoe and Shayna. So I don't know why Zoe and Shayna really have to be in the match. Maybe to prevent Dawn and Fire from taking the pinfall loss. They mean nothing as a team. I really don't care about Isla Dawn. I think Alba Fire is vastly underutilized. It's cool they're getting a match in Scotland, that they'll be on the card. They probably would not have been on the show otherwise if it was not in Scotland, but it's cool to get them on the show. They're not going to win, I imagine. Jade and Bianca will win decisively. It would have been nice if they had attempted to build these 2 women up, at least with a win or 2 on Raw. Maybe this week they'll beat Katana Chance and Kaden Carter on Raw. They've beaten them twice in main event in the past month, but who the fuck watches main event beyond myself, besides myself? So, there are really no threats to the titles, and I'm sure not a lot of people give a shit about them being in the match beyond the fact they're from Scotland, but that crowd should eat it up, so I'm looking forward to the match. We had Grayson Waller and Johnny Gargano renewing hostilities here. It was Tommaso Ciampa beating Austin Theory last week on the show, so we had the opposite. And I say renewing hostilities because as I noted last week, it's Gargano and Waller who have the history dating back to NXT. Gargano and Theory have history too in the way, a lot longer than Waller and Theory, but it was Waller who attacked Gargano in his final appearance on NXT a few years ago. They had that whole feud going into Stand and Deliver last year. That was a terrific match. Gargano won that. Waller won here. He won the rematch. Not nearly on the same level as that match. That was like a no-holds-barred, unsanctioned street fight or whatever. This was just a regular old match. But it was a nice match between the two. Waller winning after he kind of used Theory as a shield against Ciampa or Gargano, whatever it was, and then kind of capitalizing on that, picking up the victory. They continue to tease tension. It was not a one-off thing last week. They continue to tease tension between Waller and Theory. So that's clearly the story they're going for, which sounds like it might lead to them losing the tag team titles on the sooner side of DIY. I would still save that for SummerSlam. I guess they could have DIY take the titles before, then probably at Money in the Bank. I would wait until SummerSlam. I said this last week. I would do the first match at Money in the Bank, and then Theory and Waller win that one, but then lose to DIY at SummerSlam. Maybe it's DIY's final opportunity, last chance, whatever. And then you could do the split between Theory and Waller after that, if you really want to go in that direction. I'm not overly optimistic Theory would do well as a babyface. I'm not saying it's not worth a shot. I mean, I've met the guy a bunch of times. He's one of the nicest individuals on that roster, one of the nicest people I've met. Right before interviewing him, he's very cordial, very professional and whatnot. I don't know if that would translate to television, though. So I would rather turn him babyface over Waller, but at the same time, I'm not sure if he would really excel in that role long term. It might be like a quick pop. People might get behind it briefly, and then WWE just has no creative plans for him. So I'm not exactly sure, but we'll find out in due time. We had Cody Rhodes just chomping at the bit to get his hands on AJ Styles on this show after AJ feigned retirement last week, attacked Cody Rhodes, kind of suckered him in, laid him out decisively at the end of the show last week. So Cody was waiting for him to get to the arena. He kind of... AJ was goading Cody, so AJ shows up in an SUV with backup. He had the OC with him, Nick Aldis, attempting to separate the two with security. Cody was like, fuck this. He went to the ring, called out AJ again. AJ comes out, and he says, listen, if you want another opportunity so bad, because AJ, that's why he did what he did to close out SmackDown last week. He attacked him because he wants another shot of the WWE Championship, and Nick Aldis told him no. You're not getting another shot. You've done nothing to deserve another opportunity after losing to Cody at Backlash and losing to Randy Orton in the first round at the King of the Ring tournament. Cody said, fuck it, I want to get my hands on you the same way that Trick Williams accepted the invitation, the challenge from Ethan Page on Tuesday. This is what all wrestling promoters do, but WWE, it feels like they do it more than most. It's kind of lazy, but whatever, I guess. I'm looking forward to the match. So we are getting Cody and AJ, not at Money in the Bank. I guess Money in the Bank potentially too. But we're getting it before then. I thought they might save it for Money in the Bank. But I guess, God forbid, we can't have a pay-per-view without the face of the franchise on the show, that being Cody Rhodes. And it's fine. Cody and AJ main event to Backlash. They will not main event this show coming up. It's going to be Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre in Drew's native Scotland for the World Heavyweight Championship. They announced that match as far back as King and Queen of the Ring. So that is clearly the main event for that show. I didn't really think we needed Cody and AJ on that show, too. It'll probably open the show or be like second to last, third to last, whatever. And that'll be a great match. I would have given it more time to kind of build up the feud a little bit more, but it's fine. We did find out here Cody Rhodes challenging AJ to an I Quit match. So I thought that was cool. I don't know the last I Quit match that we got in WWE. It probably wasn't all that long ago, but a lot of these matches just blend together for me. So that's interesting because someone had asked me on Wednesday on hashtag, what stipulation would you give the second match between these two? I said I would not give it a stipulation. I maintain that. I would have done just a regular old match, and even if you do a non-finish, I don't think AJ's beating Cody. I don't think Cody Rhodes is losing that championship until he gets to The Rock, whether that's SummerSlam or WrestleMania, whatever. And that's fine. I would give AJ a brief run of the championship, even if it's 3 or 4 weeks long. I don't think they're going in that direction. But I thought at the very least we would get 3 matches between the two. They rekindled the rivalry for a reason, because there's no other challengers ready for Cody Rhodes right now on SmackDown. So they gave him AJ at Backlash. They went away from it, are now getting back to it. Are they just doing the stipulation? Because it is a blow-off-esque stipulation. They don't just do an I Quit match. It's a fucking transitional, match in a feud, which they have done before. WWE is fucking notorious for that. And I would not be surprised if they do another match between these two at Money in the Bank or at SummerSlam, whatever. I just don't know how you can get out of Cody making AJ say I quit and then going back to the match at Money in the Bank. Maybe they have another plan for Money in the Bank. Maybe it's Solo Sikoa or someone else. I don't know. Maybe it is Randy Orton and they're not saving Orton for SummerSlam, or they're doing the second match between the two at SummerSlam. I don't know. But I thought the I Quit stipulation is good. because it kind of goes off of what AJ was going to do last week. I quit, I retire, blah, blah, blah. He's not actually quitting here, of course, but that is the stipulation. I like the stipulation. I'm just kind of skeptical that this is going to be, if it blows off the feud, then fine, but I would have dragged the feud on for another couple weeks, especially if Money in the Bank is just 3 weeks after Clash of the Castle. Because if Cody wins again, which I assume he will, decisively, there's no reason to do a rematch, because the reasoning behind this match is already kind of, like, okay, I get what they're going for, but WWE does this a lot, it's a bit lazy booking, okay. But to have AJ lose again, what reason can you then provide for AJ getting yet another fucking opportunity at Money in the Bank? Would he have to kidnap Randy Rhodes and his friggin' kid to get another opportunity? Like, what more would AJ have to do? And that just wouldn't make any sense. So, that being said, I would go back to that match at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view because it's only 3 weeks after Clash of the Castle. But to do that, you would have to have AJ win somehow at this upcoming show. If it was a straight-up match, you can kind of get away with it, but I don't see Cody saying I quit. So they're kind of stuck in a weird position here. And then if that feud is over Clash of the Castle, who do you build up in 3 weeks to face Cody and Money in the Bank? Do they go back to Logan Paul? Like, he's busy with LA Knight right now, so I don't know. Speaking of LA Knight, he did beat Carmelo Hayes on the show. I would have liked if they promoted this in advance. It wouldn't have made a big difference at all, obviously. But it was a match I was looking forward to. They did have a good match. Would have been nice if it got some more time, a little bit more time, but whatever. It wasn't like a straightforward finish. He did beat him clean, but it was kind of like a roll-up type thing. They want to protect Carmelo. He's lost a fair amount on SmackDown since coming in. He lost to Cody Rhodes his first night in. He lost to Randy Orton. I think he lost another match after that. He lost that 6-man tag team match. You know that in Saudi Arabia 2 weeks ago. I don't know if he was pinned, though. I don't think he was. And then he lost here, too. He's not the focus right now, so that's fine. But at least he's on the show. He's doing shit. They're probably just throwing him into this random stuff until Bobby Lashley comes back. And again, we don't know when that is. Because they were teasing something between Bobby and Carmelo before Bobby got hurt. And I was looking forward to that. But then Bobby got hurt, and he's been not really directionless since, because he's been interacting with LA Knight backstage. We got the match here. I don't know why we would have a rematch between the two. I mean, I guess you could go back to a rematch because Hayes didn't, lose to LA Knight's finish or whatever. So I guess you could do a second match now that I think about it. But it was a good win for LA Knight, who called out Logan Paul, who was not on this show. He made a note about that. We heard from Logan Paul a little bit later on. He sent in a video from his home or whatever. Feels like these videos are always kind of being sent in much farther in advance than during SmackDown. I highly doubt Logan Paul is watching SmackDown live and is aware of what's going on when he's not there. Otherwise, he would probably be there. But anyway, he made a comment about how, listen, I'm not going to give you what you want. You want a shot at my championship. I'm playing Tetris right now in friggin' wherever he is, California, Los Angeles, whatever. And he's like, I'm going to go out and win a Tetris championship this weekend, something you could never do because you've never won a title here in WWE. So that's what we're not counting the $1 million championship, I guess, which I understand why. And that's NXT anyway. He's talking the main roster. So they're clearly setting up a match between the two. I had seen the report from Meltzer, who's always like, yeah, it could happen here, but maybe not. It's like, that's not really a report. That's like what we're all fucking doing. That's called speculation. They could do the match at the pay-per-view. I would not. They could very well bump the women's tag title match at the pre-show. I don't know if they would want to do that, though, just because they already did the women's tag title match in the pre-show on the previous pay-per-view. I don't know if I would do that a second time. But you have that match, Zayn and Gable. And Gable, I don't know if he's re-signed officially. I would hope so if they're promoting that match for the pay-per-view next weekend. But they're promoting Sami Zayn and Chad Gable for the championship. They're promoting the Triple Threat Tag Team title match. And now Cody and AJ for the WWE Championship in an I Quit match. Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then I think there was another match. There were 5 total matches on that show. The 2 world title matches. Oh, Bayley and Piper Niven as well, who I'll get to in a moment. So we have 5 matches as it is. Backlash had 5 matches. I think King of the Ring had 5 matches on the main card. I imagine this show will also have 5 matches. You do not need LA Knight and Logan Paul on that show. You can hold off on it until Money in the Bank, the first match. You can have Logan Paul win the first one, and that's fine. I would save the big win at this point until SummerSlam. At least we're getting to the feud. If you want to do a first match before then, that's okay. But at least we're finally getting the feud that I've been waiting for like a good fucking year now. Because I thought we would get it going into SummerSlam last year, and we didn't, after their interactions on Raw going into Money in the Bank. But at least we're finally getting it. So I like the interactions and the seeds they planted for their feud and their upcoming match here on this show. Bayley out in the ring next. She was confronted by Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, all taking turns, not really Chelsea, more so Piper and Bayley, taking turns talking about their WWE Women's Championship match coming up at Clash of the Castle. A good promo by Bayley, but more so by Piper. I didn't really think the crowd was all that respectful, and that's putting it lightly towards Piper here. They gave her the what chant. They talked over her. Didn't really give a shit what she had to say, and that's a shame because I thought her promo was probably the best promo she's ever cut on the main roster, probably in her entire WWE career, including NXT and NXT UK and whatever. She wasn't really in NXT, but you get my point. Doing a great job of telling the audience why they should care about her and why she is a threat to that championship, because she's done a lot more in her career beyond what she's done so far in WWE. Also tying it back to the Mae Young Classic and Bayley being there and seeing Piper Niven in the tournament. I thought they did a great job of making that match matter. Because just doing Bayley and Piper Niven is fine. Piper Niven is from Scotland. It gives her moment. But they gave people a reason to care about Piper Niven here with the promo. I thought that was great. So I thought this was really well done. I don't think this ended in physicality either, which was also a nice, refreshing change of pace. They've attacked Bayley before. They beat Bayley and Naomi on last week's show in tag team action. This didn't need to end in a brawl or Bayley getting beat up. It was just some straight up talking to promote the match, and I thought it was a job well done. And just like that, we are at the main event. Kevin Owens and the Street Profits battling the Bloodline. Pretty straightforward six-man tag team match. Good stuff. Enjoyable action. Nothing out of the ordinary, but it was good. Solo, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa losing by disqualification, interestingly. They did not win decisively. They did not win by pinfall, and they probably want to protect Owens and the Profits, so that's fine. But they did lay out Owens and the Profits afterward, putting Owens through the commentary table and standing tall to close the show. Good main event, good way to close the show. I thought it was a good addition to SmackDown overall, honestly, doing a nice job, like I said earlier, of setting the stage for a Clash of the Castle, furthering some stuff with the Bloodline, the WWE Women's Championship picture. They announced Nia Jax and Michin for next week's show, and LA Knight also said he would go to Logan Paul and bring the SmackDown to him, a la AJ Styles, what he did to AJ. He went to AJ's house a couple of months ago. I don't know if he's going to Logan Paul's house or home or whatever, but I would think he might even go crash the Tetris thing this weekend, which I think might be coming up today or tomorrow, whatever. That would be pretty cool if footage aired of that on SmackDown next week, and it hit socials like this weekend. That would be cool. I don't know if LA Knight is still in. I don't think he lives in LA now. When I talked to him last year, he said he still lives in Florida because that's where you're supposed to go if you obviously wrestle in NXT. But anyway, that would be cool if they kind of followed up on that on next week's show. They're doing Nia Jax and Michin, like I said. They're doing Chelsea Green against Naomi. We found out about that after their segment in the ring. Pretty straightforward stuff. We're also getting the Grayson Waller effect with DIY on the show next week. I thought it was a good show. I enjoyed the show for what it was. Not a great show, not a bad show. I thought it was a solid show, though, as SmackDown has largely been since WrestleMania, which is nice to see. It's not as hot as it was before Mania with all the Rock appearances granted, but what we have been getting is much better than what we were getting a few years ago. I always have to remind myself of that. Some of these shows are not exactly newsworthy or eventful, but they're always a fucking, just astronomically better than what we were getting 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago from SmackDown. So I can't complain. I enjoyed the show for what it was. Thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Like I said earlier, no SmackDown audio review next week due to the fact the pay-per-view airs at a couple of reasons. One, the pay-per-view airs early on in the afternoon on Saturday. So whenever there's a Saturday international pay-per-view from WWE, I do not do a SmackDown review those weekends. And we've just so happened to have 3 of those since WrestleMania. So thankfully, we are getting a show in Canada, which is nice, but it's not a Saturday afternoon show. And I enjoy the Saturday afternoon shows. But when it comes to recording the reviews, I just can't do them. So unless I do it late Friday night, typically I don't watch SmackDown live, or I just am busy on Friday night, so I don't want to do that either. So no SmackDown audio review next week, no SmackDown Lowdown review next week, per is usually the case with those international shows, as I mentioned. I'm going to be in Boston anyway during Clash of the Castle, at least the first part of it, for Boston Comic-Con, so I will be catching up on the show a little bit later on in the night. I will not do an audio review of that show until Wrestle Rant Radio the following week, but I should have my written review of SmackDown next week up on WrestleRant.com before the pay-per-view, so keep an eye out for that. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.